And that sound marks the beginning of another episode of the Chaplain's Assistance Motor Pod. I'm your host, Gary, and this is the podcast where I discuss my world of G.I. Joe, what's going on in the latest news, the G.I. Joe comics I've been reading, and just general what I'm getting in the mail. I cap off every episode with a closer look at a toy vehicle or playset from the G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero line from 1982 to the present. And with that, what's going on in my world of G.I. Joe since the last time I recorded is I've gotten a few G.I. Joe classified figures in the mail. And I've got the latest wave. I got the Crimson Guard, I got Zarana, and I've gotten Dusty. And they all look fine. The Crimson Guard and Dusty, to me, are faithful upscalings of their original design from 1985. But for me, the standout of this series is Zarana. Zarana has managed to escape her package. She didn't last long. I love the double elbows in the female figures. I'm still getting used to it, but I shouldn't even be commenting on it. It should just be standard at this point in a 6-inch action figure line for females to have the double elbows. And it is a nice figure. I like the fact that it doesn't have the ab crunch joint. It has it in the torso like the modern G.I. Joes, like Serpentor. I really like some of these newer figures more than most. And I like the face sculpt. I like the hair sculpts. I do like the original hair, but I have to admit the modern mullet, which she was rocking as early as 1988 in the comic books, is a welcome change. I gotta admit, the original Zarana from 1986, not one of my favorite figures. The most needed of all figures for an update. I hope that they do a retro O-ring Zarana soon. That would be nice just to get a new head sculpt, if anything, because we know that the retro O-ring line is starting from scratch. Will it have a ball neck or a swivel neck? That would remain to be seen. But anyway, back on the classified Zarana. She's got an updated gun with almost like a tuna can wheel instead of the clutch fan. Has a nice little backpack with a knife. Overall, it's a great figure. I saw some complaints about the pink showing through her pants. Well, the reason for that is if you look on her 1986 figure, it's pink showing through her pants, not flesh color. You know, she's not like other girls. She doesn't show off her skin. She's a little, let's say, more sensible than that. But overall, this is I really do. I can't say enough good things about the G.I. Joe classified Zarana. Speaking of which, I did hint a little bit on O-rings. So the new O-ring line, there is a rumor. I don't like to talk about rumors that much. I don't like to substantiate them, but I've heard from multiple good sources. And so I can comment on the fact that it was broken on the internet that we have a Dreadnought Thunder Machine / Sound Transformers Decepticon Soundwave with potentially 2 O-ring figures, one of them being Zartan. And that looks cool. Love the Thunder Machine. I think it's one of my favorite Dreadnought vehicles. I know I haven't covered any Dreadnought vehicles, but I think 2023 will be the year to change that. It's pretty cool. I like the fact that the retro O-rings are still a glimmer. There's still an ember burning. So hopefully fandom will continue to fan the flames on that. And there's also been rumors of what the next HasLab will be now that they're getting rid of, or now that they're getting ready to ship the HasLab Sky Strikers. And there are images on an eBay auction of close-ups of an open package in Singapore. I can't wait to get that. That is something I'm probably going to push through on the schedule for reviewing when it's finally in hand, allegedly shipping January 12th. The only other thing I've gotten in the mail recently, this episode has been delayed a few times for varying reasons, is I managed before Christmas purchase the 1991 to whenever mail-away Brazilian Quick Kick. And on Facebook, I posted the story about I saw these guys at Expect Discounts in Connecticut. Expect Discounts is another name for Clark stores. Clark's is in Ohio. They bought a metric ton of G.I. Joe leftover product from the Hasbro warehouse. Essentially boils down to I saw all the Quick Kicks in the bin at Expect Discounts when I was a kid, about 15, and I didn't get one at the time for I can't remember what reason, but I'm just going to put on the fact that I didn't have any money on me at the time, and if I had asked my mom for anything, she would have just said, no, you should have brought your money with you. That's the way my mom was. This is the same store. I remember Star Brigade littering the shelves and also Dino Hunter sets. So, and we're talking this would be 1994, 1995. That's basically it. Not a lot going on in my world of G.I. Joe. It's been a hectic last month, at the old homestead, new water heater, really upsetting my basement and affecting my collection room. I've been trying to find things, seeing as how I had to push everything over to make room for the new water heater and the servicemen to get there and work on it. So, water heater makes me think of water. So I got to thinking, what is a good water vehicle to look at? And I had a couple ideas, and I just wasn't ready to do the proper research on them. So, but what else? What does water abut? Water abuts a coastline. And what better way to celebrate a coastline than with 1987's G.I. Joe Coastal Defender, a G.I. Joe trailer. That's right, it's not a vehicle, it's not a playset, it's a trailer, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. A little more nostalgia on this front, as I have a fond memory of playing with a Coastal Defender at my cousin's house. He had the Coastal Defender, and that day we played with a bunch of his G.I. Joe toys, and he had a mobile command center, and he had Dreadnought Thunder Machine. But I remember closing out the night before my mom took me home with the Coastal Defender, the little green trailer. And I picked one up last winter, and it's one of those things where when you're looking for one of these, condition is always everything. And the big thing to watch out for with a Coastal Defender is the doors that flip down on the sides. One of them, they tend to sag over time. So if you leave them hanging, they're not going to sit straight out. They're going to eventually sag to lower. So they will taper towards the ground. And the other thing is the little missile stanchions that are located on the sides also get kind of loosey-goosey, so they won't always stand upright. So it becomes like a balancing game if you're displaying this. It's a pretty simple trailer. On the outside, before it folds out, it's just a simple box and with a little trailer hitch. Just to tow it behind your Mobat, your Vamp, your Wolverine, your Mauler. But then when you get it to wherever you're stationing it, preferably on a coastline, it folds apart. When you unfold it, if you have it folded up, and maybe it's best to back up a little bit. When it's folded out, you have the chair that's sitting on the back panel. You have the roof, which becomes the back of the chair, and then the wall, the front of the trailer, by the trailer hitch, becomes the roof with a radar dish on top. So in order to fold it up, you slide the seat out, and then you rotate you pick it up. There's a slot for the trailer roof to go into the floor of the trailer so that you can flip it around and make it the roof again. And then there's two little clips that clip down into the front of the trailer. Now, on my Coastal Defender, those clips do have stress wear because they're designed to be a little bit flexible to go in and out of that slot. Obviously, with age and the plastic outgassing over time, it gets a little more brittle or stiffer. So now that doing that action has led to stress lines. Now, when you fold up the walls, the missile racks just fold in a little bit, but now you still have to put the back of the trailer in, and you also have to put the chair in. So what I found is I always have to take off a missile or two to slide the chair in, and then once that gets done, I close it all up, and then I fold up the ramp at the back of the trailer. It's a little bit of playing Tetris, folding it up, but even after 35 years, you can still do it. Now, the details on this are sparse. It's green walls. It is a gray base. You have dark gray wheels, which is the same color, dark gray, as the antenna. The missile stanchions are the same dark gray. And then you move on to the missiles and seat, which are in a bright orange plastic. The decals are few. You have the G.I. Joe logo and the United States military star on each side, and you have United States on the ramp when you fold it up. And you also have a decal for the chair for whoever sits in the chair to look at. It's nice. It has a couple little gauges and stuff to look at, but nothing truly, really detailed. Taking a quick look at the blueprints, and the blueprints show the missiles hanging out on the trailer when it's all folded up. So that'd be nice. That gives the trailer the ability to be like a mobile missile platform when folded up. I don't know how you would control it. Maybe a remote unit inside the towing vehicle. You know, let's say the Havoc has something to connect with it wirelessly. Hey, Bluetooth is an option. You know, but typically when, on 3D Joes, they show the missiles tucked in too, like the way I was always taught. But here it is. I'm looking at the blueprints, and what do those guys at Hasbro know, right? It's rather simple. Calls the whole box, the fold down operation platforms, and where the radar goes, they're calling it a 360-degree rotation radar base. It basically says that this radar will be rotating 360 degrees all the time, and that would be similar to like the radar dish on the USS Flag. And it's also, let's say you're talking about coastal defense, maybe you could program it to go like a 180 or 270 degree sweep. So this way, you can go back and forth as you're searching things. So this is a coastal defense. So you can think of it as a little, lookout point, and the radar is huge. The radar is huge for that. The radar is called the PRF, Pulse Repetition Frequency Acquisition Radar. And then it goes to the 4. It's the Compact Personnel Monitor Seat. So obviously, this is a trailer for the G.I. Joe line, so you have to have somebody to be able to man it. In the chair, they have the number 5, the Ground Clutter Target Identifier Processor. So obviously there's a computer involved. And then it also has a 4 PCC Central Control Computer. They're really trying to accessorize out this little trailer on the blueprints here. It's getting a little wordy for what they have. And still, we have on another section of that chair, you have the ECCM, the Electronic Countermeasure Computer. It's not an ECM, which is an electronic countermeasure. It's a ECCM, Electronic Countermeasure. So it's like the old double cross, triple cross. So you got that going for you. It has the little ribbing or the ridges or just essentially the frame of the trailer box. And they're nicely molded in the green. And it's calling those the Vector Established Support Trusses, which is complete garbage verbiage for essentially saying, yeah, it's the frame for the trailer. And then it goes on to talk about the Universal U-Section Reinforced Hitch, which, for just to let you know, that just means it goes on the back of your vamp. You get to your puncture-resistant off-road tires. All right, that's cool. That just means, hey, they're going to take a little more than a nail to flatten them. And then finally, you get to the BSM, the Battlefield Support Missile Scrambler Missiles. And so they've gone on and they've talked a little too much about certain aspects. And now here you got the missiles. You could have told me these are surface-to-surface missiles, surface-to-air missiles, radar-guided, heat-seeking. But they're just calling these scrambler missiles. So are these more like a fire-and-forget missile, radar? I don't know. It's like, all right, so they did all this work, selling me on the boring parts of the trailer. And now they get to something exciting of the trailer. And what are you going to do with it? So that's something. Now, the trailer is small. The details are rather few and far between. I mean, the green box part does look like wood on a metal frame. You do have some like electrical conduit on some of these, which is nice. It gives it that realistic, like we didn't need to put this detail here, but it's there. And, you got some flaps, and even the back of the trailer has a small, let's say 2-gallon molded gas can on it. The ramp looks good. Depending on which side you have out, it fits better with the wood grain going against the back of the trailer rather than the ridged, almost like steps on the flip side. So my ridges are viewable when it's in a box. That's what shows up. But what I like about the Coastal Defender is it's a simple like mini playset. It has seats for one figure. My figure of choice to usually man this is Psych Out. But, this is such a little practical thing. You can just use about any G.I. Joe in that seat because they're just monitoring it. So you're talking guys like Dial Tone could be handy in it. He's got the radio there, call it a Breaker. The box art shows Falcon. It's just a nice utility set piece for the G.I. Joe line. It isn't going to set the world on fire with its action features or its excitement of mimicking a real military vehicle, nor is it fanciful to inspire imagination. But it helps you visualize a battlefield or battlefield condition. I have Psych Out sitting in there, the radar's going, and next thing you know, it's picking up a Rattler 30 miles out on the coast or a moray coming in on the water. And this can be a first alert system of alerting the Joes to a Cobra incursion. With that, I find it useful, and it's something that I like more than I think I should. I'm just going to rate this guy on a scale of 0 to 5 Scrambler missiles, keeping this episode kind of short. To me, this is a solid 3 Scrambler missiles out of 5. It has a place. It's not out there. It fits your figure comfortably. And I think it's cool. And that's all that matters to me, that I think it's cool. Do I have multiples of these in my collection? Nope. I just have the one. I know how I'm going to do a diorama with this. So with that gets good. And that ends this quick episode of the Chaplain Systems Motor Pod. I want to thank again for last episode's extra length with Steve from G.I. Joeberg, Greg from Anything Joes, and Jason from Order of Battle Pod. They were great hosts. That's not a typical episode, so if you're a returning listener from that episode, this is more or less how it goes, maybe not so quick, but I want to thank those guys again. But that's it. That signs me out, and this has been the Chaplain Systems Motor Pod. I've been your host, Gary. You can find me on social media at Chaplain Joe Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or even YouTube. At this point, I should be editing a new review, and it will be up soon. The link will be in the description below, of a opening of a 1/18-ish scale toy I found at an unlikely place, and I just thought it was pretty cool, and I just decided to open up and just give the shout out. It's a Dollar Tree ATV I found from another military toy line, and I just was interested to see how it would mesh with the 1/18 scale G.I. Joe figures from the vintage and even the modern line. You can find me on all your favorite podcatchers, whether that's Anchor.fm, our host, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and even Good Pods. And while you're there, like or leave a review of the podcast. It only helps the podcast get better. The Chaplain's Assistance Motor Pod is the strange, but not estranged, nerdy little brother of The Pint, a pop culture podcast. And that's it. With all of that said and done, one final missile for the masses: be decent to each other.